Father, mother, what happened? Rushing to the hospital, I was shocked to learn that my sister-in-law had been transported to the emergency hospital and was undergoing surgery. Maggie, I'm sorry to have startled you. You must be surprised. The mother-in-law was exhausted. Not at all. Is she going to be okay? To my question, the mother-in-law looked like she was about to cry and said, according to the doctor, it seems to be quite serious. As I muttered, serious? How did this happen? My father-in-law spoke with a strong voice. But it seems she managed to pull through, so that's a relief for now. For a while, the three of us shared our emotions and shed tears. It's unclear how long this situation lasted. Once I had calmed down a bit, I decided to try calling my husband Sam's cellular phone again, which had been unreachable all this time. Hello, Maggie. I finally got through to my husband. Come to the hospital quickly. Your sister has been in an accident. Then, my husband said something unbelievable. Huh? My sister had an accident. Why isn't it you? What do you mean? No, it's nothing. From his words, I clearly understood something. Maggie's story. I live with my husband, Sam. We met through mutual friends and got married 3 years ago. Since we haven't had children yet, I am still working. As 3 years have passed since our marriage, the people around us have started to ask more frequently, when will you have children? Friends who married around the same time have also talked about being stressed by their mothers-in-law telling them they want grandchildren soon. However, my in-laws were different. They said, it's up to you two when it comes to children. There's no need to rush. There was a time when we tried fertility treatments, but the process was so mentally taxing that I had to stop. I still remember what my mother-in-law said to me at that time. Just having Maggie as part of our family makes us happy. That single sentence enveloped me in a sense of security and gratitude. My mother-in-law's compassion was irreplaceable to me. The in-law family has been very warm and accepted me as a real family member. Especially Claire, my sister-in-law who was 3 years younger than me, calls me sis and is close to me. We often go shopping and have lunch together. I dote on Claire as if she were my real sister. Having only brothers, I was very happy to have a sister like Claire. Then one day, while my husband was at work, he called me. I was suddenly told to go on a day trip for business now. I won't be able to catch the last train, so don't mind me and go to bed. I see, okay. Good luck on your business trip. After hanging up the phone, I considered my plans for the evening. Sam is coming home late, so I don't need to cook dinner. Oh, maybe I'll go out for a fun meal with Claire. I immediately sent a message to my sister-in-law. She quickly replied with an okay. The swift response from my sister-in-law, accompanied by a somewhat unusual stamp, almost made me spit out my coffee as I laughed. That night, my sister-in-law and I decided to go to a well-regarded local pub. Surrounded by delicious food and a cozy atmosphere, we had a great time. Our stomachs hurt from laughing too much, but it was a wonderful night. Spending time with my familiar sister-in-law was a calm happiness for me. Oh no, look at the time. It's still a weekday, so we should probably leave soon. Over 3 hours had passed since we entered the pub. Surprised at the time, I hurriedly began to prepare to leave. Yo, it's about time for brother to come home. So you should probably be at home before that, right? My sister-in-law said with a smile. We promised to meet again at our parting, and we headed home. Although I hurried back, my husband had not yet home. Just made it in time. I frantically finished up my chores and took a shower. After getting ready for tomorrow, I glanced at the clock, and it was already past midnight. He said he might not make the last train. I have work tomorrow, so I should go to bed. Sorry, Sam. I left a note on the desk and headed to bed. Not used to drinking much, I fell asleep as soon as I got into bed. After a while, something woke me up. It was my cellular phone ringing by my pillow. Bleary-eyed, I looked at the clock, and it was just after 1 a.m. My husband had not yet returned home. Who could it be at this late hour? I hurriedly grabbed my phone and checked the screen. my husband's name was on display. Sam, what's wrong? I quickly answered the phone. Hello, Sam, is something wrong? Despite my repeated queries, there was no reply from my husband. The call continued, but he seemed unaware he had called me. All I could hear was noise. Assuming he had called by mistake, I was about to end the call. Just then, faint voices of a conversation, mixed with the noise, reached my ears. Listening closely, I could tell it was a man and a woman, although I couldn't make out what they were saying. However, it was clear they were conversing cheerfully. I listened quietly for a while. Then, I heard the woman's voice. Was it okay to lie about going on a business trip? But I'm really happy we could meet today. The woman's voice was merry, and I could hear laughter. At that moment, a wave of anxiety washed over me. This was because my husband, Sam, had a history of infidelity. It happened during the first year of our marriage, and the other woman was his ex-girlfriend. My husband, who is not good at hiding things, tried to cover up the affair but was quickly found out. I grew suspicious of his strange behavior, and while he was asleep, I checked his cell phone and found evidence of the affair. I confided in my sister-in-law about this issue. Later, my husband was made to sit down in front of his parents and received a lengthy lecture. He was also made to write a letter of apology to me, and he apologized tearfully. Seeing his behavior, I made him promise never to cheat again, and ultimately forgave him. And he also declared, "I'll never cheat again." But the memory of the affair with his ex-girlfriend resurfaced, causing me unease. Come to think of it, his behavior has been suspicious lately. He suddenly started claiming to have business trips and went out over the weekends. Could it be an affair again? Although anxious, I hung up the phone. The next morning, my husband behaved as if nothing had happened. Yesterday was rough. They ordered me to go on a business trip at the last minute. What a ridiculous company, overworking their employees. While complaining, my husband yawned hugely. "Yay, you must be tired." I spoke to my husband as usual. After last night's phone call, I had a hard time sleeping. I was still awake when my husband came home. Despite the recurring thoughts of his infidelity, I decided to keep quiet for the time being. A few days later, I was enjoying a peaceful moment at home when suddenly Claire came to the house unexpectedly. "Sis, it's a bit sudden, but could I borrow your car?" "Of course, go ahead. I don't have any errands today, so feel free to use it." Since my in-laws don't own a car, Claire occasionally used mine. As usual, without any suspicion, I handed her the keys. "Here are the car keys. Be careful, okay? I'll be back by evening. Thanks." I waved to her as she drove off. That evening, I felt anxious because my sister-in-law, who was supposed to return by car in the evening, hadn't come home yet. When I looked at the clock, it was already past 8 p.m. Where could she have gone? Driven by anxiety, I tried calling my sister-in-law several times, but couldn't get through. Could something have happened? I waited anxiously for a call from my sister-in-law, checking my phone repeatedly. After a while, a call finally came from my sister-in-law's cellular phone. I hurried to answer it. "Claire, is something wrong?" "Maggie, it wasn't my sister-in-law on the other end. It was my mother-in-law." "Mother, isn't this Claire's phone?" When I asked, perplexed, my mother-in-law replied with tears. "Claire has been in a traffic accident. I'm calling from the hospital." "What? Which hospital is it? I'll come right away." After hanging up the phone, I immediately started preparing to leave. I tried calling my husband's cell, but he didn't respond. Wanting to inform him about my sister-in-law's situation as soon as possible, I sent a text. However, there was no reply for a while, and the texts weren't read either, which made me even more anxious. He'll surely call back once he sees the message. Thinking this, I rushed to the hospital where my sister-in-law had been taken. Upon arrival at the hospital, my sister-in-law was indeed in the midst of surgery. I ran up to the front of the surgery room where my in-laws were holding each other's hands, looking worried. Father, Mother, what happened? I ran up to the two of them. Maggie, I'm sorry to have startled you. You must be surprised. The mother-in-law was exhausted. Not at all. Is she going to be okay? My question seemed to bring my mother-in-law close to tears, as she said, according to the doctor, it's quite serious. Her words felt like a blow to my chest. Serious? How did this happen? As I murmured this, my father-in-law spoke to me. Maggie, is Sam still at work? I haven't been able to contact him yet. I did send a text, but he hasn't replied yet. I took out my phone from my bag and checked the text, but it still wasn't read. Where could that guy be at a time like this? The father-in-law muttered to himself, frustrated. At that moment, a doctor who had just finished the surgery approached us. Are you the patient's family? When we all said yes at the same time, the doctor explained with a somber look. Doctor, we've done everything we could. However, her leg is severely damaged. Even if she recovers, the leg may never fully heal. You must be prepared that Claire might never walk again. At the doctor's words, I was so shocked I could barely speak. This can't be. Claire was just fine when I saw her this morning. To think she might never walk again, I blamed myself, thinking if I hadn't lent the car, my sister-in-law wouldn't have been involved in an accident. It was my fault that my sister-in-law was injured. With that thought tightening around my heart, I couldn't help but cry out loud. I'm truly sorry, Claire. I repeated my apologies over and over, tormented by self-loathing. Maggie, it's not your fault. Please don't blame yourself. As she said this, my mother-in-law gently embraced me. It's not like it's been definitively said that she'll never walk again. Well, it seems she managed to pull through, so that's a relief for now. My father-in-law spoke with a strong voice. For a while, the three of us shared our emotions and shed tears. It's unclear how long the situation lasted. Eventually, I calmed down and checked my phone to see if there were any calls from my husband. But there were none. It seemed my texts had not been read either. I stubbornly tried calling my husband again. Hello, Maggie. I finally got through to my husband. Hey, where have you been? Do you know how many times I've called? And you haven't responded to any of my texts. I couldn't contain my anger and confronted my husband. Calm down. I had my phone in my bag, and I just noticed the calls. What's the matter? Is it urgent? I explained the situation to my husband calmly. I needed him to understand the gravity of what had happened. Claire had an accident. Why? Why wasn't it you? I was perplexed by his words over the phone. What do you mean? Why wasn't it you? What's that supposed to mean? I didn't miss my husband's remark. What do you mean by that? I pressed my husband for an explanation. Nothing. I just meant I'm glad it wasn't you in the accident, or something like that. My husband's words seemed like an attempt to cover up his previous statement, which only increased my suspicions. The past, filled with deceit, began to resurface. I've been betrayed again. The next day, due to my husband's strange behavior, I suspected something was wrong with the car. After the affair he had before, I had no choice but to be cautious. I tried to find proof by checking the car's dash cam. In fact, since the last affair, I had changed our dash cam to one that could record inside the car as well. My husband, blissfully unaware of this. And there, clearly recorded on the dash cam, was the evidence of his affair. It seemed that my husband had been meeting with a junior employee from his company. Moreover, it turned out that my husband and his mistress were planning to defraud me of my life insurance. They had tampered with my car to stage an accident. Rage boiled up from the depths of my heart. I confronted my husband with this evidence to bring the truth to light. It's a misunderstanding, just a play on words. My husband tried desperately to make excuses, but the conversation between the two was clearly recorded on the dash cam. Excuses are useless. At my words, my husband hurriedly began to make more excuses. It's really a misunderstanding. You're just getting it wrong, Maggie. You understand, right? No matter how much my husband insisted it was a misunderstanding, he had a past of infidelity. I could never accept the excuses of someone who had once destroyed my trust. At that time, my father-in-law, who was checking the dash cam with me, began to furiously reprimand my husband. Do you understand what you have been doing? What you two have done is a complete crime. His hands were trembling. Yet my husband was trying everything to deceive his way out of it. I see. So you insist you're not involved in this accident. In that case, I'll submit this dash cam as evidence to the police. Hearing the word police, my husband became frightened and begged me. Police, wait a minute. Please don't do that. I'll apologize. Please. The person you should be apologizing to isn't me, it's Claire. You've ruined the life of the sweet sister who admired you so much. I will resent you for the rest of my life. You and your mistress will take full responsibility. I lashed out at my husband. He was shocked to see me, usually so generous, so angry. Then I decided to submit the dashcam video to the police. At first, my sister-in-law's accident was treated as just an accident. But police investigations revealed the tires were tampered. This proved my husband had tampered with my car. Afterward, my husband and his mistress were arrested for attempted murder. My in-laws decided to disown my husband. I decided to prepare for divorce. The divorce from my husband was soon finalized. I moved into an apartment close to my work, ending the cohabitation with my ex-husband. He was arrested for attempted murder, but I have not gone to see him in prison. I believe I will never see my ex-husband again. My ex-husband, who was disowned by the in-laws, paid a steep price for his infidelity. Months later, my sister-in-law was discharged from the hospital, overcoming the painful rehabilitation, and started to walk on her own bit by bit. Seeing the smile return to her once downtrodden face and watching her step towards a brighter future filled me with joy. I still felt partly responsible for my sister-in-law's accident, which was a result of my husband's conspiracy with his mistress. If only I had left my husband at the first sign of infidelity. If only I hadn't let my sister-in-law drive that day. Such thoughts occasionally crossed my mind, leading me to feel self-blame. However, seeing my sister-in-law, who was once told she might never walk again, overcoming her limits and heading towards recovery, impressed me deeply. It was the most delightful event for me. She was strong, positive, and never gave up. While there was no longer a bond with my ex-husband, I still kept the connection with my in-laws. Soon, I have plans to go on a trip with them to celebrate my sister-in-law's discharge. I am determined to support her until she can walk to her favorite places on her own feet and will continue to watch over her